Everybody has a story that deserves to be told, but usually, unfortunately, after every couple of generations, you only hear about the stories that are most famous. And what's sad about that is that some of the most inspiring, the most amazing stories sometimes get lost in the fold, and we never hear about them. But it's often those stories that are the most inspiring, where just a regular person does more than any famous person does. Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Dell'Aria's Musical Escapades. I'm your host, Josh Dell'Aria, and today I want to share with you one of those stories in hopes that you might be able to write your own in a similar way. This comes from one of my favorite bands, Big Big Train, which their specialty is writing about stories just like this. I actually discovered the band back in 2012 when they released the first part of their two-album series, English Electric. Those two albums are about a train line that runs through England, and they wrote the song about the people who built the train line and people who built the trains for the train line and all the people who are in the area, who work near it or use it or do other things all around England. And what struck me most about those albums was their willingness to write about these people who were not very well recognized for their work. So of course I had to look into their two albums from 2017, and one of my favorite songs from one of those albums was called The Ivy Gate, and that one rode all the way up to a number 3 spot in 2017 for Big Big Train's third career top 20 spot. Now before I go on about the song, I did want to mention more about the style of music that Big Big Train plays. It's called progressive rock, and if you've never heard of progressive rock before, a good famous example that I can think of that would basically fit the genre is Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas. That kind of fits the idea of progressive rock a little bit. Might give you kind of a sense of where I'm going with this. And in my opinion, there are two basic strands of progressive rock. There's basically an American strand that focuses a lot more on like synthesizers and electric guitars and keyboards and a lot of like the electronic background. But there's also a kind of more European strand, and that one involves a lot more classical instruments. So it'll involve a lot of things like flutes and violins and trumpets, things like that. And Big Big Train is British, so they're obviously more toward the European side of that type of stuff. Now both of those strands have this kind of geared towards storytelling, and a lot of times you'll see that the songs are actually pretty long, but the cool thing about that is that they're actually really engaging. So 7 minutes might actually go by in a song, and you might not even realize it, because you're just so focused on the music and just how powerful it is. So in this song called The Ivy Gate, Big Big Train mentions this figure, Thomas Fisher, who was actually an English politician back in the 1500s, and the song kind of goes through his call to the army and how he had to leave his family behind basically to fight for the English army. And in so doing, his child ended up stillborn, and there was basically a whole bunch of tragedy that wreaked his family. At least that's what the song mentions. I don't know if that's at all true. I think the whole point of the song is to get at the whole idea that this is a legend and that it may or may not be true. So I'm going to play the song here, and especially for you musicians who are watching this, listen to this song and try to think about how you could tell a very unique story of yours in a similar way.
So the story goes, some folks say they see the ghost of Thomas Fisher wait outside the Ivy Gate.
and their home. Until one fateful day the army letter came.
It changed everything, it came and summoned Tom away
to fight for king and country. Those months ahead will suffer each day. Their child was on the way.
She soldiered on, but come the happy day, both were lost, they say.
Then buried in the grave, the Fisher family plot close to the ivy gate. Take his life. Some still say,
Out of the corner of their eye,
in the slate gray rain, outside the ivy gate.
So you might listen to that song and think, wow, that's an incredible story. There's no way I could write a song like that. And you're wrong. You might listen to that song and think, oh, in order to write a really great story, I have to write something really unique. Well, that's not true either. But the first and probably most difficult step is just finding something to write about that you know a lot about, but probably not a lot of other people know a lot about. And in truth, Big Big Train knows a lot about all these mythical legends and different places in Europe, just from having traveled all about there. But the reason why they write about it isn't just because it's uncommon. That's probably part of why they write it, but it's not the whole thing. In truth, they're inspired by all these stories that they hear, and they just want to share them with other people so that their stories don't get lost in the fold. Well, you can have the same sort of idea with a love song, but there have been plenty of people who have written love songs. So the only difference is that it just has to inspire you. It doesn't have to be a unique thing, but it can be a personal connection that you have. Maybe it's the deepest romantic relationship you've ever had that you want to write about. And the way you make it different is that you put your personal touch to it. Then once you've established that concept, you want to describe it in the best language possible, using the strongest words. And Big Big Train does a really good job of this. And let me play a little bit of a sample of one of those first verses where they really set the scene for this story.
It was so long ago. The fishers planned their home until one fateful day the army letter came.
It changed everything, it came and summoned Tom away
To fight for king and country.
And in that segment, Big Big Train uses the line, the fishers planned their home. And that word planned really gives a lot of depth and meaning to the song. It's a lot better than saying, the fishers wanted to live here or wanted to live in this place, whatever they would have said. Giving that whole sense of plan means that they already had things set up. And so that just gives you a little bit more detail into the idea of what they were doing. And the other instance there is when they talk about the letter, how it summoned Tom away. And I like that whole use of the word summoned because not a lot of people use it. But yet it really describes the heart of the matter of what's happening to Thomas Fisher in this song. And so, using phrases like plan their home and words like summoned are a lot stronger words. They're words that people aren't going to hear as often. And so it'll make your song stand out if you can use words like those and be more unique. And that is especially necessary if you're writing about something that has been written about in the past, too, and you want to put a different spin on it, or a more personal spin on it. You need to have some stronger words than just cliches to get your point across. Last but not least, your instruments can really help you out in telling the story. You don't necessarily need words to tell a story, as I've documented through plenty of other videos in the past. All you really need is to be able to have the instruments really set the mood and the tone. Even in instrumentals, like the one that they have in this song here, and I'll play this for you, and I'll stop when the tone's about to change, so that you get a good idea of the contrast. Okay, right here is where the tone's going to change, so watch what happens now. the song, you can tell that when the instruments get soft, the song is much more melancholy, and it reflects the sadness that is going through the Fisher family. But when the song gets really loud in that second part, it reflects a lot more of the anger that comes out of them when they realize that Tom has to go to the army and their baby daughter is about to die, or baby son or baby daughter, whatever it's going to be, is about to die stillborn, and all that sort of stuff. That's why the music needs to get loud for that part, is to express the anger inside the Fisher family at that point. See, this is why things like dynamics and tempo and mode and timbre and a whole host of other technical musical things really matter, because they're the things that help express the emotion of the song to you through the instruments. And so, for you songwriters, if you utilize as many of those as you can, it's going to make your song so much more effective in being able to communicate those emotions to your audience. That's everything I've got on this song for you guys. My hope is that it inspires you to go out there and write a great story of your own. And if you do, definitely make sure you share it with me, either down in the comments here, or you can email me at joshdell'ariasmusicalescapades@gmail.com. Also, feel free, guys, to visit our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/JoshD'sMusicalEscapades. My top 20s are all over there, and you'll see the Ivy Gate on there, obviously, in the notes section. So if you guys want to take a look at that, that would be awesome. And as always, if you're a musician, or you know of a musician, and you want to feature a particular song on the show here, again, you can do the same thing, either leave it in the comments, or you can send me an email, again, at joshdell'ariasmusicalescapades@gmail.com. And I'd be happy to give your song a listen. And I might be able to feature it on the show here. And it also might be able to get featured for the top 20. Again, everybody, thank you all for watching. And until next time, go make great music.